DLSS is coming to Escape from Tarkov in as little as a few days. We got a much deeper look at the Lighthouse expansion and a bunch of new stuff coming with that. And we heard about a bunch of new quality of life improvements coming to the game really soon in the brand new Tarkov TV Live that just finished up. We are going to cover everything that they just talked about. I'm Jessekazam. You know the drill. If you like the content, think about subscribing. I stream on Twitch. My links will be down below. But let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so while we watch some of the new B-roll and some of the stuff that they showed, we'll go through everything that they talked about. There was a lot of really important stuff here, but the podcast wasn't really that long. The big thing here was them letting us know that they are still working. They are still hard at work. They haven't really missed anything, as kind of what Nikita made it seem. Nothing has changed. The game is still the #1 focus, and they are still grinding through. One of the most important things that they showed off was the new Lighthouse expansion. We got a video showing a lot of the new areas there. It looks a lot bigger than I thought it would be. That kind of island goes back further. A lot of detail. You can expect that from Battlestate Games map design. It looks really cool. He also mentioned that the Lighthouse expansion is not exclusively that island, that they're actually adding new areas to explore in the water treatment facility as well. They're adding multiple bosses to Lighthouse, including the new trader that they called the Light Keeper. We got a picture of what he looks like. And once again, they said something will be needed to gain access to that lighthouse, to that island, and gain access to him. That will not be easy to get. So we still don't know the information on like if you can kill him and what items you need to bring to sell, where those items go, how to extract with them, how to get across the bridge, what items we need. But we saw a picture of him, and we saw a lot of new stuff around the Lighthouse expansion that is super exciting. He didn't really make this out to sound like it was coming soon, as in like in the next couple weeks, although that's kind of what we thought. A little bit confusing there. They said they have a lot more to come, but I wouldn't expect this in the next few weeks, but it is nice to get a little bit of information about it. He also talked about DLSS. Now, DLSS is ready, he said. DLSS is coming in the next patch, and he said within the next week, maximum 2. So sometime within the next 7 to 14 days, I would imagine we are going to have DLSS. They showed off some stuff that they made, showing off the differences between the 3 different modes, balance, performance, or basic, and how much they can help. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on your hardware and stuff like that. But if you don't know about DLSS, look into that on the NVIDIA side. It definitely should help people with performance. And then AMD's version of this is coming too. They showed off a little screenshot saying that it won't be here in the next week like DLSS will, but they are working on getting FSR into the game as well. They also showed off quite a few quality of life improvements. We can just go through them really quickly, starting with crafting. So it used to be that if you needed an item to craft something, like if you needed a screwdriver to take something apart and craft something out of LCD screens, it would also consume that screwdriver. And now that screwdriver will be an auxiliary item, and that will be used during the craft and then returned back to your stash after, right? You wouldn't break a screwdriver every time you used it. So that means that they can tinker with the rarity of those things, that maybe certain auxiliary items are needed for multiple different crafts. So this particular screwdriver can become extremely rare, and therefore, all the loopholes and stuff like that can be changed. So that'll be really interesting to see. Maybe it'll be more of like, once you find this thing, you have it. That's really cool. Now you can do those things. We have no idea when this is coming or how exactly it's going to affect the economy or the crafts, or if they're going to do new crafts, but it's pretty interesting. They also showed off repair kits. Now they showed off 2 types of repair kits for weapons and for armor, even though he also said there's going to be knife repair kits. The benefit here is you don't have to spend money. So if you find a repair kit, it's kind of like a grizzly. It has a lot of HP. Every time you repair an armor or a gun, it's going to take from the HP of the repair kit. And if you find one, and if you have one, you won't have to spend money from the traders to repair the associated thing. Now with weapons, it's not that big of a deal because it still is removing the total durability of the gun, similar to repairing with a trader. But for armors, I can see this being very huge because certain armors cost a lot to repair, So maybe you can kind of balance that out where certain things and certain materials that are very cheap to repair, you use the trader, so you're not using up your valuable resource in the repair kit. But for more expensive armors, you can actually use this. So that's super interesting. He said that like buffs and stuff like that will be coming out of it. It will increase certain associated skills, which will be cool over time. Maybe you'll lose less durability from the weapon or from the armor when repairing, stuff like that. And the repair kits will always mimic the maximum value repaired. So normally like mechanic, you spend more, but you get more repair out of it. So that'll be super interesting. Armor gun and knife eventually. We got some really good news about dailies and weeklies, 2 things that the community have wanted. One, they're adding weapon types as a quest. So they showed off a daily quest where you had to eliminate scavs with shotguns or SMGs. In my opinion, this is much, much better and much healthier for the game because it's still pushing people to use maybe a new weapon type, but they don't have to use a certain one. I think I was talking to Velian the other day, and his weekly was to kill 50 PMCs, specifically with a KS-23 shotgun. Those were broken in the past, so now they made them really hard to get. But if you're going to give me a weekly where I have to do that and they're hard to get, it's a really interesting thing. So I think that weapon types is a much better way to do that. Also, they're giving us the ability to re-roll quests. I'm assuming this is going to be daily and weeklies. And based on the quest, and I'm assuming based on your level as well, it will cost a certain amount of rubles to re-roll and potentially cost a certain amount of your trader rep, which will be interesting because right now, once you get enough trader rep to get to, level 4 of whatever that trader is, your rep doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how much more or less over that I have. So this might be a balance where you're like, okay, I want to keep level 4, mechanics, so I'm not going to re-roll this one because of the cost. That'll be very, very interesting. But another way to just re-roll, allow people more choices to get more XP. That's very, very good. Another huge thing they talked about is the arena. I think the arena has the potential to be one of the biggest things to happen to the game. If you're unfamiliar with the arena, there's a lot of cool content out there, but the TLDR of that is it's a separate game that you can purchase alongside Escape from Tarkov or play it separately, and it's going to be more like a kind of Tarkov take on a traditional arena shooter. So maybe like a deathmatch style mode or something like that. We don't have a lot of information about that. It could be really fun and really exciting. We know that the games and your characters will be connected if you have both games. We don't know how. Arena has a lot more questions than answers, but it could be a really, really good and a really important aspect to the game. He said it is in development and it's in a pretty good state. They've settled on like the official design and now they're just kind of fleshing it out. And it kind of sounds like they're working on what's called a vertical slice of that, where they only get 1 or 2 maps ready, but all the features they want in the arena are doable and playable on those specific maps so that you get the complete experience in a narrow amount of type of gameplay as opposed to a lot of different maps and a lot of different things that aren't fully fleshed out, if that makes sense. He said that he would love for us to be in arena, playing arena this year. He's not 100% certain about that. We have heard that before, but hopefully that's true. I would love to be able to play arena. They talked about how we're getting a lot of new weapons soon. They showed some of them, but one of the most unique ones was a utility weapon called the flare gun. In the podcast, he showed a flare gun shooting up into the sky and calling an airdrop. Being able to call an airdrop to you. He immediately said, if you think you're going to be able to spam this with your friends where everybody comes in and you call 5 different planes at the same time, you won't be able to. I'm assuming that means these are going to be either extremely expensive or extremely rare, or even just have a cap where if somebody uses one in a raid, you can't use one either. We don't know. He also mentioned that he thought the video was going to show the different types of airdrops, and then he didn't really say anything else about that. But he did confirm that there will be different types of airdrops. Now, there's a few different ways you could go about this. I'm thinking maybe you call one in for weapons and armor, or one for food and necessities, or something like that. But you could also think about this as potentially a way to extract your loot as the game potentially goes either toward open world or map-to-map travel or something like that. They've talked about the ability to extract your loot and stay in the raid before. It'd be really interesting if you call on an airdrop and you load it up with stuff and then, it's unlootable to other people. We have no idea. Once again, as with most things, more questions than answers, but we did see a flare gun. And he did say there are different types of rounds that do different things. And he said there's different types of airdrops. So it'll be really interesting to see how all that shakes out. Now, the biggest thing I wanted to hear about in this podcast was Streets of Tarkov. All he really said was that there's a lot to show us. The artists and the developers have really been able to speed up the rate at which they are working on Streets, which is a really good thing. But he didn't have anything to show us today. He said not soon, but soon when it comes to Streets. So not a whole lot of concrete information there, but it really did sound like he wanted to show us a bunch of stuff, but he couldn't yet. He actually said that this podcast was supposed to be longer and they were supposed to show us a bunch more stuff, but they weren't able to. I'm wondering if some of that was related to Streets, especially since Nikita posted that picture with the chicken on Streets. So no news on Streets yet, other than they're working on it and that work is speeding up. One of the other guns that they showed was the Rhino Revolvers. Now, they teased these years ago. They finally showed in-game footage of using the Rhino Revolvers. There's going to be 4 different versions. There's going to be different calibers. They confirmed 357 because that was actually in the video that they showed. There are going to be speed loaders to make the reloading faster. They're going to tinker with the damage and pen values. Those are not final yet, but Rhino Revolvers coming soon. He said the smallest one is going to be a 1x1 cell. They're going to be really small. I'd love to see them do a lot more to make sidearms and handguns more valuable to the player. Maybe this will be a part of that. And then he talked about a lot of new guns, new gear, new items, but we didn't really see any of it. So that was basically it. The podcast was more about letting us know, hey, we're still working. We're still like grinding away towards the game. He talked a lot about releasing the game and really, really working towards that. I really think that they're focused on that. He talked a little bit about how they're working on major optimizations to the AI, to the audio, to the game in general, to the FPS. How in the past week or so alone, 4 or 5 updates have been made to the BattlEye anti-cheat so that they're always working on that fight. He said there's a graphical overhaul planned and just a whole lot going on. I think this was really cool to kind of hear them break the silence after 12-12. It was a great patch, and obviously already it's kind of just slowing down a little bit and people are wanting more. So a lot of different stuff coming. So that was it for this podcast. Hopefully we hear from them again soon. Hopefully this gets you excited to hop back into some Tarkov, and hopefully you can get in and try out DLSS in the next few days. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the video. If you liked the video, think about dropping a like, commenting down below, or subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Like we said, I stream Escape from Tarkov on Twitch. All my links will be down below. I'd love to have you stop by and say hey. And if you're looking for people to play Tarkov with, our Discord server is an awesome place to be. Check that down in the link below as well. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.